Lights, camera, action.
Please subscribe my channel, like and share.
The king was neither fond of hunting nor of traveling. He was fond of sports. He was a simple ruler. 12 months of the year devoted to the welfare of his subjects. The minister was also very wise and loyal. Because of his king's good nature, he was greatly appreciated by the people and wanted to participate actively in the good works of the king so that the people would be prosperous. If the people were prosperous, the country also developed a lot. When spring started, people used to celebrate in its first 7 days. This process has been going on for centuries and now it has taken the form of a festival. These 7 days all the people of the country used to leave their work and just celebrate. Different kinds of dishes were cooked in the houses, new clothes were decorated, all the dear and relatives went to each other's houses. The king was also eagerly waiting for this celebration. He had heard that on such celebrations the kings of the countries used to make prisoners fight with lions. If the prisoner defeated the lion, he was set free, otherwise the lion would make him his cub. It had never happened that a prisoner defeated a lion. The king he hated this kind of games and spectacles. He was very kind and knew the value of human beings. He believed that when Allah has made man the best of creatures, he should also give proof of this by his good deeds. Shouldn't love with oath, a human being should be with love. The king used to look forward to this celebration because during it, sports competitions were held in a huge field in front of the palace, including long jump, archery, javelin, swordsmanship, wrestlers' boats, tug-of-war, and there used to be running competitions. Youths from all over the country participated in these competitions. The king liked running competitions and watched them with great interest. He knew that running was also good for health. This is why not only the athletes, but also the common people should run regularly in their daily life. In the same city there lived a carpenter. His son Gulfam used to participate in running competitions every year and came first. Used to. He was a very handsome and well-mannered young man. This time too he was taking part in these competitions. Since he used to come every year to participate in these competitions, the king began to recognize him. His running style impressed the king. He used to run a lot. When he ran, it was like a leopard running at a low speed without making a sound. Although many young people participated in the races, but the king hoped that Gulfam would kill Parla and win the prize. Will win. By God's grace the day of the sports competition came. After a while the race started. All the young people participating in the race were very excited. Every young person had the hope that he would win the competition. Majority of these young people belonged to rich families. They were standing apart from Gulfam and were busy talking to each other. They were not talking to Gulfam because they knew that he was the son of a common carpenter. Their thinking was very bad. All men are equal. It doesn't matter if you are rich or poor. Before that, the first person in the race was given a royal medal. From this time, the king decided that now along with this medal, 1,000 ashrafiyas will also be given as a reward. The announcement added to the enthusiasm of the players. The race started from this field and the players had to run on a paved path of about 3 kos. The paved path was made in the shape of a circle. There was also a river in the way of this passage and it went round and round along the river, passing near the king's palace and ending in the same field. The race was about to start, the queen with the king in the venue. And the princess was there too. The queen had no interest in these things. She was forced by the royal edict that required the queen to join the king in public events, but the princess took long leaps. And she used to watch the archery competition with interest. The first strike on the quiver, the runners got ready. They were 10 in number. At the second strike they got ready, and as soon as the sound of the third strike reached their ears, they all ran. A large number of spectators were present and all were shouting and cheering on the runners. A few hundred yards from the field there was a bend. In a moment all the young runners had cut the bend and disappeared from view. Now all the spectators, including the king, were waiting for their return, when they would turn around and find out who was the first to arrive. These runners were followed by 2 horsemen who were assigned to watch over them. The king asked the queen, "Queen, who do you think will win this race?" The queen said simply, "Whoever comes first." At this answer of the queen, the king laughed and laughed. She was sitting smiling. After a long wait, dust was seen flying from the part of the field where the runners were returning from. A large number of spectators were present and all were shouting and cheering on the runners. A few hundred yards from the field there was a bend. In a moment all the young runners had cut the bend and disappeared from view. Now all the spectators, including the king, were waiting for their return, when they would turn around and find out who was the first to arrive. These runners were followed by 2 horsemen who were assigned to watch over them. The king asked the queen, "Queen, who do you think will win this race?" The queen said simply, "Whoever comes first." At this answer of the queen, the king laughed and laughed. She was sitting smiling. After a long wait, dust was seen flying from the part of the field where the runners were returning from. The king turned his side and sat staring at it. In the front was a young man dressed in blue. Gulfham was dressed in black. The king was disappointed. After a while the race was over, but the king Gulfham was not seen. He was not among them. The spectators had raised their hands to the sky to applaud the young victor. The king's eyes were searching for Gulfham. When he was sure that Gulfham is not present among these young people, so he said to his minister sitting at the same level, "Minister Bakbur, we do not see the young man who was coming first in these races for the past many years. Where has he stayed?" The minister called the 2 horsemen at the same time and inquired about Gulfham. One of the horsemen folded his hands and said, "Sir, we were following these runners. As soon as we cut the bend, the river began. We had just gone a little further along the river when we saw a woman standing on the bank of the river screaming. Her young son had fallen into the river and was drowning. Hearing her screams, the young man who was in the front stopped and then hurried to the woman. All of them had seen the drowning child, but no one stopped and helped the woman. Didn't bother to. He was afraid that if he stopped, he would lose the race. On hearing this from the cavalry watcher, the king's face showed a look of anger. All the youths who had participated in the race bowed their heads in shame. Were standing, the king threw a furious look at them and said, "We are very sorry to hear this. What was the status of this race compared to a human life? All of you should have done this together. Coming to the aid of a woman whose child was drowning in a river, we cancel the race because one of her runners was unable to participate, whereas the law states that the number of runners must be 10. One less, one more." Hearing this, the winning young man's face hung. He was sure of getting the prize. Although he was the son of a rich merchant, he was regretting that he did not get the prize. The king added, "Now this same competition will be repeated tomorrow when the number of runners is complete." Then the king asked the minister. He said, "Let us find out what is the condition of the drowning child and where is the brave and philanthropic player of ours." Queen and princess were also thinking after hearing this incident. They were worried about the drowning child. Both of them were also sending a farrier to the young man who had decided to withdraw from the race, but had reached the aid of a distressed mother and her child. Sent to find out that suddenly everyone saw Gulfham coming from the front. All the spectators sitting there also got to know about this incident. When they saw Gulfham, they all stood in their place and greeted Gulfham with clapping. When Gulfham came near, his whole body was drenched in water. He bowed and bowed to the king and queen. The king got up and patted him on the shoulder and asked, "Young man, what happened? We found out that you went to save a drowning child." Gulfham said from literature, "A woman was washing clothes by the river. Her child was sitting beside her playing. Chang knew what had happened. The child fell into the river. She began to scream. It was then that we were running out of there. When I heard the screams of the woman, I went to help her." "What do you do, young man?" suddenly asked the king. Said Gulfham, "A lampanner. My father is a carpenter. He has there is a shop. I also sit in the shop with him and help him." The king started to think about something after listening to his words. "How are your financial conditions?" he asked after hearing his question. He hesitated, took a look at the people standing around and then bowed his head. The king said again, "Do you know that if you had won this race, you would have received 1,000 silver coins as a reward? Telling you that it was my heart's desire to win this competition and get the prize. This prize would have solved all the troubles in our house, yet you did not try for it.